So the moment of truth, drum roll, we'll see कि मेरा ग्रीन कार्ड मुझे कब मिलेगा. So I will click on estimate my GC date. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Boliye Sharmaji, and if you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button in order to stay connected with my journey within the United States and to basically see all the awesome content that I'm producing. बाकी टाइटल देख के थंबनेल देख के आपको ऑलरेडी आइडिया लग गया होगा कि ये वीडियो किस चीज़ पे होने वाली है, बट स्टिल many people back in India and even within United States have asked me about this, so I thought क्यों ना इसके ऊपर एक वीडियो बनाई जाए, and hence I'm making a video. But quick disclaimer, I'm not a legal advisor, I'm not a person who has any kind of legal degree or any kind of immigration degree. This video is purely for informational purpose, education purpose, and to tell you the harsh reality of H1B visa. So the way I have divided this video, it's into several different components. सबसे पहले I will cover what exactly is an H1B visa. बहुत से लोगों को पता होगा what is that, but still I'm going to cover for the sake of the video. Then I'll slowly get into the restrictions of H1B visa, followed by the fear and uncertainty that lies, and then towards the end I'll share about the green card process that's kind of attached to H1B visa, and also very interestingly I'll share my timeline around green card कि मुझे कब exactly green card मिलेगा while I'm on H1B visa. And definitely हर चीज़ के negatives नहीं होते, कुछ positives भी हैं. So I'll share a couple of good points around being on H1B, and again this is just my personal opinion. I'm not influenced by anyone, और किसी ने मुझे पैसे नहीं दिए हैं बोलने के लिए. It's purely my opinion. And before we actually go into the video, I just wanted to take a minute to cover a couple of very quick points. और ऐसा हो सकता है कि बहुत से आप लोग सोच रहे हो कि ये कौन है जो H1B के ऊपर बात कर रहा है, इसने ऑलरेडी बोल दिया कि इमिग्रेशन लॉयर नहीं है या इसको इमिग्रेशन से रिलेटेड ज़्यादा कोई ऐसी डिग्री नहीं है. But I definitely have the experience around the entire process. Just for quick background, I have been living in United States for the past 6 years, and I originally came to US on F1 visa, that's the student visa, and then utilized the OPT program followed by the STEM OPT program, and then during my STEM OPT my company filed for my H1B visa, and I mean luckily it got picked up. So I have been on H1B visa for the past 3 years now. So I definitely have some experience around the process, have seen a lot of my friends go through that process, so I can definitely share my experience. So let's get started in the video now. So what is an H1B visa? H1B visa is basically an employment-based non-immigrant visa that is issued for temporary work, basically to the temporary workers working in a specialty occupation. And you need to have a theoretical and practical knowledge of this specialty occupation. The specialty occupation can range anywhere from like being in a science, technology, engineering, management, or medical field, and there are other categories too that can be classified as a specialty occupation. So if you have a knowledge of theory and practical in your area, you can qualify for an H1B provided your employer sponsors that. And whenever you are on H1B, you essentially have the same benefits as a normal worker. So you can take vacations, you can have paternity, maternal leave, and whatever you want to have, that's all possible. There are certain different clauses around taxes and a couple of other benefits which H1B visas are not eligible, but I'll probably cover that later in some other video. Now talking about the process, every year there's a lottery system. Yes, you heard it right, there's a lottery system for this H1B because not everyone can be given this visa. So currently there is 85,000 visas that are issued every year, and out of those 85,000, 20,000 are reserved for students who did their masters from United States. It's like the split of 65 and 20,000 visas. And let's say अगर आप lucky हैं तो आपका lottery में नाम आ जाएगा and you'll get a visa. If not, then you try again. So basically the system is very different right now, purely lottery based. And there are bills which were introduced saying that it should be changed to a merit based system similar to like Canada, but still nothing has changed. It's still a lottery based system. To provide context, every year there are more number of applicants than the number of visas that are issued. So like for example, last year it was close to 3 lakh applicants which were there, and only 85,000 were issued. And I was just checking in my 6 years that I have been in US, every year nearly 2 lakh applicants have applied for this H1B visa via their employer. So for every H1B visa, you have 3 people who are kind of going after that. And again, it's purely lottery based system. And in this graph, you can see the total number of applicants which were filed for every year. And this is just going up and up. So it's definitely a very different process. Alright, so let's talk about a couple of restrictions that are currently there on the H1B visa. So the number one and probably the most important is that you need an employer to sponsor it. You cannot sponsor this visa on your own, similar to like a B1, B2, which is a tourist visa, which you can file and just go appear for the interview. That's not the case for H1B. You need an employer who is willing to sponsor that. So the next point is the duration of the visa. So typically H1B visas are only issued for 6 years. And for the first approval, it's like usually 3 years, but depending upon if you're doing a contract job and if you are working on a client side, it might be reduced to like 1 year, or even I have seen people getting approvals for 3 months too, and then you need to refile. But in a typical happy path scenario, it's like 6 years of maximum duration, and after your first approval, which is given for typically 3 years, you have to reapply again for a renewal, which will again be, let's say, given for another 3 years. There are a couple of different ways by which you can extend it for another year or so, but again, that's beyond the scope of this video. The next important point is that as this is an employer sponsored visa, as I said, you cannot work for anyone outside of your employer. So it's essentially like you are tied to your employer. So let's say if I work for an X company, so that means I'll have to work for the X company for the entire duration of H1B. I cannot do a side gig, I cannot do a side job, I cannot go on an entrepreneurial journey, but I can own real estate, I can invest in stocks, I can do those activities. But as a primary active job, I cannot work outside of my employer who has filed for my H1B. That's the biggest restriction. So if you have some kind of a dream to open up your company, H1B visa definitely has that big restriction, and it hurts a lot. So the next restriction is that, and I would say it's more of now going into the next point around, uncertainty. So after every 3 years or for the duration the H1B is issued, you have to refile, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes into that place. So you have to work with lawyers to get everything in place, and they usually file for your extension. And again, there are situations wherein people do not get extension, so their visa is like not extended and they have to leave the country. So that's like one of the not so good part about H1B visa as well. So what happens, let's say if your spouse has been working back in your country and you got an H1B visa, so the person can definitely come with you to United States, but on a different category of visa called as H4, which is like a dependent of H1. So as it's a dependent visa, the H4 person cannot work. So that's one of the major restrictions. There are different clauses wherein H4 person can be eligible, but for that you need to have your green card approved while you're on H1B. So that's when a different state of visa comes in, which is called as H4 EAD. Honestly, when you come fresh on a H1B and you don't have any options to apply, and your company is not willing to sponsor your green card for the first 2 to 3 years and they want to wait, your spouse or your dependents cannot work. They have to stay home and cannot be involved in any kind of employment activity. That's another restriction. So now let's talk about the real part of this video, like the harsh reality of H1B visa. Basically जो काले घने बादल छाए हुए हैं H1B visa के अराउंड,